Good afternoon. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to the House Economic Matters Committee. I know things are a little bit different than what we're accustomed to doing. I ask everyone for their patience and understanding as we navigate our way through this new system, but I'm sure it's going to be productive for everyone. We have three bills before us today. The first bill being House Bill 8 by Delegate Krim, Maryland Strategic Energy Investment Fund, Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. I'd ask all of the witnesses to please put your name in the same way you signed up so that I will know who we are to call up to testify. With that, if Delegate Krim is with us, let's get started.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman. I'm sort of struggling with you today, so happy to be your first bill hearing under this new system this year. So House Bill 8 is a reintroduction from last year. It's a bill that passed your committee, passed the House, and died in the Senate because of having to adjourn early because of the virus. So, and originally when I put the bill in, I asked for $1 million for this program, but working with the chair and working with Chairman Brooks of the subcommittee. I beg your pardon me? Did somebody say something? I heard. I'm sorry, I heard somebody speak, so I just stopped talking. We reduced the amount of the request to $500,000 from the CEF. To fund this program. And let me explain a little bit about the program. This is the Maryland Healthy Soils Program through the Maryland Department of Agriculture. And we want to add this program to the CEF. And under the legislation that governs the CEF, this is a climate change program. Let's be just very clear here. This is climate change we're talking about, because what this program does at the Maryland Department of Agriculture, it helps farmers do regenerative agriculture. It's called many things. One is regenerative agriculture, one is healthy soils, one is called no-till agriculture, but it is supported by the Maryland Farm Bureau. It's supported by environmental programs throughout the state. So does anybody have any questions? The original Healthy Soils program was created in state law, and it was subject to available funding. But since the program was created, there has been no funding appropriated for this program in the state budget. So this is a way to get this program off the ground, to see whether or not we can significantly affect carbon emissions through the Healthy Soils program. And I would ask for your support. And I have reintroduced the bill the way that it was amended in this committee. Now, I do know that MEA, I believe, will be coming forward to oppose this. I'm not sure why, because I think we're both on the same page that we want to reduce carbon emissions. My point of view is that we have to put everything on the table. We're in an emergency situation when it comes to climate change. We need to have every available program to move forward to see whether we can reduce our emissions. And this is one of them. So I would appreciate your support again. And I'm here for questions.
Are there any questions of the sponsor? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next up, we will have Carol Smith.
Did you say Carol Smith? She's my staff person, so she may have submitted testimony on somebody's behalf. I don't know.
Okay.
She's
Then
not.
we'll move on to Dr. Sarah Villa.
Okay, that's me. Thank you very much. I'm Sarah Villa. I'm a professor at University of Maryland College Park. I worked with the Maryland Department of Agriculture from 2017 to 2020 on the Healthy Soils program. And during that time, I wrote a detailed review of the scientific literature on carbon sequestration in agricultural soil. That report contains a list of recommended evidence-based practices, agricultural practices for sequestering carbon on Maryland farms. And it has become Appendix K in the most recent GGRA plan. So I have all the scientific details in my written testimony. I just want to hit a few additional high points. First, supporting the Healthy Soils program is a really good use of RGGI funds because it helps Maryland reach our greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals. And the benefits, though, of this bill and the program go way beyond that. The agricultural practices, the recommended practices that sequester carbon, build soil health, and that is a gigantic economic and environmental win for everyone. Increasing soil health provides significant economic benefits for agriculture and farmers because healthy soil boosts ag productivity now and into the future. It helps farmers save money on fuel, fertilizer, and agricultural chemicals, and it also reduces labor expenses. The increased use of these practices, if they're incentivized, provides big environmental benefits for all Marylanders because these practices reduce flooding from stormwater runoff because more rainwater soaks into healthy soil. They reduce water pollution in streams, rivers, and the bay. And this also saves money on water purification. And the use of these practices boosts pollinators and natural enemies of insect pests. Natural enemies are things like spiders and other things that eat insects that are damaging crops. So I just will end by saying incentivizing increased use of these recommended carbon sequestering agricultural practices will provide huge benefits to farmers, to agriculture, to all Marylanders with no real downsides that I can see. So I hope you will give HB 8 a strong positive report. Thank you.
Are there any questions? If not, thank you very much. Next up is Colby Ferguson, Maryland Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Colby Ferguson on behalf of Maryland Farm Bureau, and we come in support of House Bill 8. This is a refiled bill from House Bill 395 from last year that this committee passed unanimously in the form that it is right now, as well as the House Chamber did, and just ran out of time due to COVID last year. So re-stab at this, and hopefully we can get this accomplished again. As someone that sits on both the Maryland Commission on Climate Change as well as on the Maryland Department of Agriculture's Healthy Soils Advisory Committee, we see the opportunity that healthy soils practices can do to meet our 30 by 40 goals, our 40 by 30 goals, I guess it is. And we see this as an opportunity to get some funding in. These practices aren't free, and farmers do have to kind of be the burden of the cost in a lot of these practices. So we think this is a great use of the money just to kind of compare regional greenhouse gas initiative reductions versus what our water quality improvement BMPs have done in ag as the ones that the delegate talked about. In the last 10 years, our RGGI has reduced about 3.6 million metric tons. And our ag BMPs have reduced 6.14 million metric tons. So we're almost doubling the RGGI. So I think utilizing some of that very limited source of that money to accelerate that program is greatly beneficial to the state. And so we would encourage a favorable report of House Bill 8.
Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Thomas Corrigan, the Doeden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Corrigan here I'm the owner of the vineyards at Doeden and Davidsonville, and I am the vice chair of Future Harvest, a regenerative agricultural organization with members throughout the Chesapeake Bay region. And I'm here to testify in support of this bill. In 2017, the General Assembly established, for really good reasons, the Healthy Soils Program. It is the simplest and cheapest way to draw carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. It also makes farms more resilient to the extreme weather associated with climate change. It's becoming more frequent and more severe. And importantly, it leads some to predict that the global food system will collapse by the end of this century. Since we're all eaters, that makes the situation urgent. Unfortunately, we haven't made much progress in developing healthy soils. The program relies on conservation practices, as Colby just mentioned, that can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but they're not enough really to draw the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and to make the soil healthier. For example, the IPCC estimates that erosion on fields that have eliminated tillage still exceed the rate of new soil formation, so that farms on average now are estimated to have only about 50 harvests left. So we know how to do this, as Dr. Vaya has pointed out. But they're not really being implemented. The practices are not really being implemented to their best effect. Having a stable source of funds to implement the practices will put us a long step forward. And so I recommend I ask for your favorable report. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions of Mr. Corrigan? Seeing none, thank you all. Thank you very much. I'd now like to go to Amanda Cather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Amanda Cather, Project Director with the Million Acre Challenge and a livestock producer in Montgomery County. And I am here today to testify in support of House Bill 8, which directs $500,000 from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative to the Maryland Healthy Soils Grant Program. This is a very modest amount, but critical to support this important forward-thinking work and continue to make Maryland a leader nationally in promoting healthy soils for economic viability of farms and climate mitigation efforts. The Million Acre Challenge works with farmers, policymakers, and consumers to support healthy soils on Maryland farms and across the greater Chesapeake region. Our collaborative aims to catalyze the growing movement to achieve no fewer than 1 million acres of healthy soils in Maryland by 2030. And we're a collaborative project of Chesapeake Bay Foundation, Fair Farms, a project of Waterkeepers Chesapeake, Future Harvest, Hatcher Group, Institute for Energy and Environmental Research, and the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. As others have mentioned, during the 2017 General Assembly session, Maryland passed a law to create the Maryland Healthy Soils Program. And the Department of Agriculture was then charged with promoting farming practices that contribute to healthy soils, practices that increase organic matter, improve soil structure and water and nutrient holding capacity, and sequester carbon and reduce greenhouse gas emissions by providing farmers incentives such as education, technical assistance, and funding. Members of the not yet formed Million Acre Challenge advocated strongly for this legislation and celebrated the bill's passage, but there's more work to be done. For Maryland to truly protect our vital farm soils and combat climate change, we must ensure that the program receives adequate funding to carry out this critical work. Farmers have tremendous potential to be real agents of change when it comes to climate change mitigation. By implementing practices that promote soil health and sequester carbon, they could play a critical role in drawing down greenhouse gases. It's imperative that we provide our farming community with opportunities to take on this role. Increased soil health and carbon sequestration will not only have profound benefits to Maryland farmers' bottom lines, it will make them more resilient to extreme weather brought on by climate change. House Bill 8 will help ensure the viability and resilience of Maryland farms, position farmers as leaders in the climate movement, and substantially reduce the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. We stand strongly in support of this bill and urge the committee to adopt a favorable report of House Bill 8.
Are there any questions? If not, thank you very much. I'd now like to go to Robin Jessica Clark. Is Ms. Clark available? If not, I'd like to go to Mr. David Murray.
Thank you, Chairman Davis and members of the Economic Matters Committee. My name is David Murray. I serve as Executive Director of the Chesapeake Solar and Storage Association. We are the trade association for the solar industry here in Maryland. We are recommending an unfavorable vote on HB 8, and not because of any issue with the Healthy Soils program, but rather where it's drawing the money from. This bill would allocate funds from the Strategic Energy Investment Fund, also known as the SEIF, for the Healthy Soils program. And in our view, it's allocating money from an energy program and placing it into an agricultural program. If you look at the Healthy Soils program, its top line goals relate to addressing runoff, stormwater management, improving crop yields and profitability, like a lot of the proponents talked about. But it doesn't address clean energy generation or reducing our demand for electricity. Most of the programs that is funded by SEIF, and MEA may have alluded to this in their written testimony, but they really address clean energy, energy efficiency, solar, wind, a significant number of initiatives that really address our energy goals. And so, we really take issue with the fact that HB 8 is taking money from an energy fund and allocating it for really agricultural purposes. And so with that, I'll yield the rest of my time, but appreciate the opportunity to testify virtually today.
Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Lily had a question.
I'm sorry, Delegate Watson.
Mr. Chairman, I was pointing out that Delegate Qui had a question.
Oh, hi.
Delegate Chi.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't find a blue hand that I could raise for some reason on the screen. I'll figure it out. But anyway, thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. So my question for Mr. Murray is, if you agree in principle this is a good idea, but you don't agree where the funds should be drawn, which is from SEIF, is there a better source to fund this program without tapping into SEIF, which is earmarked for energy-related expenses?
Thank you, Delegate Chi. I believe in MEA's testimony from last year, they pointed to 2020 legislation, HB 1176, which identified a different mechanism to fund the Healthy Soils program.
I understand the RGGI fund is expanding because of the regional collaboration, right?
I believe so, yes.
So that means the SEIF fund is expanding as well?
Yes.
Okay, but you are just arguing that this SEIF fund should not be funding other things than energy-related programs.
That's correct, Doug. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? And if I don't see you, do something so I don't miss you. Seeing none, that concludes our hearing on House Bill 8. We will now go to our second bill, which is House Bill 376, Delegate Melt.
Is it time to talk, Chairman?
It's time to talk, Delegate Melt.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and everybody, and distinguished colleagues. It's great to be with you. I will talk short. This is a bill that we considered last year that deals with the RPS mandate for municipal utilities. We've got some great witnesses that will shine a light on any questions that you might have. You know, there's this traditional fight between the fossil fuel power, or the reliable, low-cost fossil fuel power versus the renewable energy, and there's this tension in the room. And I just want to suggest to everybody to look at this a little bit differently. These are all players in renewable energy. They're not trying to get in that fight. They're just trying to survive. And this legislation is very important for the survival of our municipal utilities. Thank you for your time. God bless you. It's great to see everybody.
Thank you, Delegate Melt. Brett Leiniger. Is
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Leiniger with us?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, Brett Leiniger, testifying in support of House Bill 376 on behalf of the 5 municipal electric utilities in the state, which are Easton, Berlin, Hagerstown, Thurmont, and Williamsport. Combined, as you cumulatively speaking, there's a forecast for these 5 jurisdictions to supply about 1.2 to 1.3% of the estimated energy sales, which is a very small footprint. What we're seeking to do in the bill, it's a bill that you all heard last year and passed, is to put a cap on their commitment to the RPS. It is in the exact same posture as the bill was from last year. With me today, I have John Horner, who's the Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Easton Utility, Mayor Zach Tyndall from the town of Berlin, and Mayor John Kennard from the town of Thurmont. And with that, we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Are they testifying, Brett, the gentleman you just called?
Yes, sir. They are signed
Okay.
up and such. It's my understanding that they're signed up.
Okay.
And I also, if I may, Bill George from MML has provided written testimony, but was unable to provide oral. So thank you for that.
Any questions of Mr. Leiniger? Seeing none. Thank you very much. John Horner.
Good afternoon, Chairman Davis and members of the committee. My name is John Horner, and I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Easton Utilities in the town of Easton. All 5 municipal electric utilities in Maryland have worked together for the past 2 years on behalf of our customers to move this bill forward. This year, a short slide deck is also attached with the written testimony for the bill. For the sake of brevity, please note the 3 charts that are this year included with the deck on pages 4, 5, and 6. They depict how small the municipal utilities are comparatively to the other utilities in the state, and subsequently the higher than 40% premium that the munis are paying for RECs in the marketplace as a result. In summary, this bill keeps the munis engaged in RPS, which is what we want to do, treats them consistently with the electric cooperatives in the state, and provides immediate electric bill savings for customers when it is greatly needed. We thank Delegate Melt and this committee for your support in 2020 when you passed the identical bill. The town of Easton and Easton Utilities support House Bill 376 and request your favorable report. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Mr. Zachary Tyndall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the members of the committee. My name is Zach Tyndall, and I'm the mayor of the town of Berlin. I want to thank Delegate Melt, a fellow Eastern Shoreman, for sponsoring the bill, and the members of the committee for a favorable report last year. I ask for your support and your vote once again this year. The town of Berlin operates a small peak shaving power plant that generates power between 6 and 23 times per year. Peak shaving occurs when temperatures outside cause the cost of purchasing power on the open market to increase. Now, our community is for clean energy and a healthy environment. I support House Bill 376 because it will help fix the current inequity between the small municipal electric utilities and the larger electric providers in the state, caused by the current RPS legislation. Due to the small generational output of the town of Berlin, our customers pay over 40% more per SREC compared to larger electric providers in the state. A favorable report on House Bill 376 will help create a level playing field between the municipal and other electric providers throughout the state. The savings generated by adopting House Bill 376 will be directly passed along to our customers, the roughly 5,000 people who make up the town of Berlin. In turn, the people of Berlin will have an additional discretionary income to direct towards more energy efficient and environmentally friendly modifications to their homes. Some of these examples include Energy Star appliances, LED light bulbs, and even solar panels, potentially taking their home entirely off the grid. Once again, the people of Berlin are environmentally conscious. We just ask that you support a fair and equitable playing field between our small electric utility and the larger providers in the state. Thank you, and I hope each one of you have a happy new year and a successful session. I'm available for any questions regarding the town of Berlin.
Any questions? If not, thank you very much. John Kennard.
Thank you very much, Chairman Davis, members of the House Economic Development Matters Committee. I just want to say shout out to Delegate Pippi. Recognize you right away, sir. Welcome. It's a pleasure to speak before you today. My name is John A. Kennard. I am the mayor of the town of Thurmont, and I wish to offer the support of the town of Thurmont and our residents for municipal RPS legislation through House Bill 376 in the current 2021 session. The town of Thurmont has a long history of providing electric service to our residents, stretching back over 100 years. The Thurmont Municipal Light Company was established by a group of concerned businessmen intent on bringing the wonder of the modern age, electricity, to our community. The initial service was powered by a purpose-built hydro dam that turned generator sets in our generating station. The system was so successful that over a relatively short period of time, we began purchasing power on the wholesale market, and we continue to do that so today. I take great pride in telling you that the Thurmont Municipal Light Company offers our residents one of the lowest electric rates in the state of Maryland, and our service is second to none. Thurmont residents are fortunate to have at their disposal an electric crew that works hard to resolve service outages that seldom last more than an hour. Today, in cooperation with the cities of Hagerstown and Williamsport, the Thurmont Municipal Light Company continues to negotiate on the wholesale market to provide the lowest possible electric rates for our residents. I'd like to point out that I've not used the words customer while talking about the Thurmont Municipal Light Company. We do not service customers. We service our residents. As a municipal electric utility, we answer to our residents, and I am speaking before you today on their behalf. The town of Thurmont supports House Bill 376 because it will significantly reduce the portion of wholesale power supply costs for its municipal electric utility, which are required to be purchased from solar renewable energy resources as part of the statewide renewable portfolio standard. More specifically, House Bill 376 will return the renewable requirements to the levels in place in 2019 prior to the passing of the Maryland Clean Energy Jobs Act. In Maryland's Clean Energy Jobs Act from 2019, the state doubled the amount of renewable resources electric utilities are required to purchase from 25% to 50% for Tier 1 renewable resources by 2030. Additionally, the portion of those Tier 1 renewable resources that must come from solar was increased from 2.5% up to 14.5% by 2028, which is an increase of 480%. House Bill 376 will return the total Tier 1 renewable requirement for municipal electric utilities to 20.4% with a solar requirement of 1.95%. As mentioned before, these values were the requirements in place in 2019. Although an exact financial impact of Thurmont's costs and residents cannot be calculated due to the inability to forecast future market commodity pricing for renewable energy, the estimated benefit of the passage of the bill will prevent an increase in wholesale power costs that will result in hundreds of thousands of dollars per year that will be passed on to our residents. Please contact me if you need any further information regarding our support of House Bill 376. We urge favorable report from your committee, and I thank you for the opportunity to address you today.
Any questions? If not, thank you very much. That concludes the witness list for House Bill 376. I'd now like to go to our final bill of the day, House Bill 345, Delegate Tracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Vice Chair, colleagues, thank you for being here today and working through the logistical challenges of doing this all on Zoom. I'm here to ask for your favorable vote on House Bill 345. So you did see this last year. I'm going to quickly review what it is that you passed out of this committee and out of the House last year. And then I want to just briefly speak to a couple of additional amendments that you'll see this year. So as you may know, in 2016, there was an explosion at the Flower Branch Apartments, which is in my district in Silver Spring. This explosion led to the death of 7 people, the hospitalization of 65 people, the displacement of hundreds of people, many of whom were low-income people and unbanked, and everything that they owned was in that building. And so they literally lost everything. It also led to the traumatization of an entire community. You'll hear from one person today, but I can tell you, having been to many community meetings, there's folks who are still devastated and traumatized and frightened at, in sort of a PTSD way from being part of this experience. The National Transportation Safety Board conducted a multi-year investigation as to the cause. They pointed to a faulty regulator that was owned by Washington Gas. They put a lot of the responsibility on Washington Gas, although Washington Gas has a different perspective they may choose to share with you. But more importantly, what NTSB then did was they went through from the explosion investigation and made a number of recommendations of changes that ought to be made nationally to keep our communities safe. And so one of the recommendations that they made, because it was what happened was it was a gas regulator that failed. And when the gas regulator, which was in the basement of a multifamily house, failed, the gas escaped essentially into that building, and it reached a level that eventually something ignited it, and they weren't able to tell what because the damage was so great, and the entire building exploded. So the idea is that one of the recommendations made by the NTSB was to move gas regulators to the outside of buildings. And this is in fact considered a best practice across the country. In most new construction, this is what's done. NTSB made this recommendation to PHMSA, which is the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. The PHMSA process continues to sort of slowly wane its way through, go through a very slow process. And in fact, PHMSA is quite behind on a number of recommendations. And so last year, and again this year, what I have done is taken the NTSB recommendations and put it into Maryland law. So what the bill does is it requires that for all new construction, gas regulators be put on the outside of buildings, that whenever, and this is specifically from the NTSB recommendation, whenever work is being done on a pipeline or a gas service line or regulator is being replaced, that it be moved outside at that time. And then on top of that, for multifamily homes, where the biggest risk is, because in a multifamily home, you're less likely to actually smell the gas. If you're in a single family home, you would smell it as it's building up in your basement. In a multifamily home, you may be far enough away from it that you don't smell it. So then the other piece of the bill is that the gas companies need to develop a plan, present it to the Public Service Commission, and over the course of a number of years, relocate all of the gas service regulators to the outside of all the multifamily buildings. So all of that was the recommendation that was the bill that we passed last year. Now, I do want to highlight a couple of things that have happened since last year. You may recall that now over a year ago, last August, there was another gas explosion that happened in Columbia. The Public Service Commission recently fined Baltimore Gas and Electric for that explosion. Another gas explosion happened in Baltimore over this last summer. And at this point, it looks like it was probably part of a a furnace or something like that, but the investigation isn't done yet. But I highlight all of those things. And of course, we had our hearing, our briefing over the course of the summer, because our gas infrastructure in this state is very old. And we really need to be paying attention to it. And I think you all know that for both safety reasons and environmental reasons, I think we should phase it out completely. But until we get to that point, we really need to make sure that this explosive material that we pump into people's residences is done in a way that is keeping people safe. So, so that's the bill. Now, there were a couple of issues that you all had asked me to look into last year. One of them was about methane identification, methane detection systems. And I did look into that last year, and I have continued to track its progress since then. Baltimore Gas and Electric actually has a pilot right now in the state. There's a pilot in New York to see if that's a system that can be implemented widely. The NTSB recommended to the International Code Council and the National Fire Protection Association that they develop standards for the implementation of methane detection systems across the country. At this point, there isn't a best practice standard set yet for that, the way that we have for the movement of the regulators. And so I'm going to continue to track that progress and appreciate the feedback that folks gave me last year about that. And I may have a bill sometime in the future related to that. But at this point, it didn't seem like it was ready for prime time. The last thing that I want to mention is the amendment that you have before you. Another thing that happened over the course of the last year since we last voted on this bill is that the Public Service Commission had a hearing on Washington Gas and their failure to, what happened was in 2003, they committed to replace all the mercury service regulators in the state. In 2008, they abandoned that plan. It was supposed to have been done in 10 years. They got a rate increase to do it. They got a rate increase approved to do it. They abandoned that plan. And in fact, the gas regulator that exploded would have been replaced if they had gone through with that original plan. So there was an investigation this year that the Public Service Commission went through with Washington Gas. And I watched a lot of this investigation, and I watched Washington Gas essentially slip through accountability with one technicality and another. And so watching that happen and looking at my bill, I wanted to add a few more things into the bill to tighten it up so that gas companies who are committed to doing this right will continue to do it right. But gas companies that potentially are trying to slip through accountability will still be held accountable to do these things. And so the amendments that you have in front of you are just a little bit more precision about if the Public Service Commission decides that a plan needs to be revised, that a revised plan has to be there in 60 days. Some things about if the commission identifies issues that would lead to essentially an extension of time for replacement of a regulator, that it would have to happen after every reasonable effort was made to address the factor that contributed to the delay. I can go into more detail if folks have questions, but the spirit of this amendment is really to tighten up the bill a little bit in response to some of the concerns that many of us had watching the Washington Gas hearings in front of the Public Service Commission that took place over the last few months. And with that, I will stop and take questions.
Are there any questions for Delegate Charkoudian? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Erica Ramirez.
Hi. Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Erica Ramirez. I am a member of Flower Branch Apartment Tenants Association. I am here today to testify in favor of the bill HB 345, Flower Branch Act. I want to say thank you to Delegate Charkoudian for introducing this bill of the rest of the community for listening to me today. I was there in 2016 when one of the buildings exploded. I will never forget seeing one of building explode and flame, and that inside there were people, children, who were our friends and neighbors. The imagine of the people jumping from the balconies, parents throwing their neighbor child from the balcony of their apartment. There are no words to describe this trauma that I experienced. 7 lives we lost that day, and many people, they lost everything for that negligence. We don't want to anyone in the Maryland state have to go through this again. It's been over for 4 years since that horrible day, and yet I haven't seen enough to be sure that tragedy like this happen again. To you members, to the community who have in your hand to make the important decision to that impact the life of the people like us in Maryland State. We ask for your vote. Just be a say yes for this bill 345 for Flower Branch Apartment Act. That yes, they can save life, and that happen in this tragedy they can happen again. So thank you so much for hearing me, and have a good day.
Any questions for Ms. Ramirez? Seeing none, thank you very much. Scott Custer. Catherine Paul.
Good afternoon, Chairman Davis and member of the committee. CASA is pleased to provide a strong support for HB 345, the Flower Branch Act. My name is Ana Martinez, and I'm here on behalf of Catherine Paul on behalf of CASA. I'm the lead organizer for CASA, and we have members from across Montgomery County that were deeply impacted by the 2016 Flower Branch explosion in which this bill is named. CASA is the largest immigrant rights advocacy and service organization in the Mid-Atlantic region with over 100,000 members in Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. CASA has office and organizes in many areas in the state, one being the Long Branch area in Montgomery County, the community that was devastated by the tragedy that occurred on August 10, 2016, when a gas explosion led to the deaths of 7 neighbors, caused severe injuries to dozens more, and displaced and traumatized hundreds of people. CASA has been working with the residents since the explosion, and we continue to fight with them for justice. After a lengthy investigation of the explosion, lasting 2.5 years, the National Transportation Safety Board released a comprehensive report that included their findings and recommendation. One of their many recommendations is that the gas regulators need to be moved to the outside of the building structures. Although no certain cause of the explosion could be determined, the report indicates that the probable cause was the failure of the indoor mercury service regulators with an unconnected vent line that allowed natural gas into the meter room where accumulated and inundated an unknown ignition source. Contributing to the accident was the location of the market service regulators where leak detected by the order was not readily available. The report makes several recommendations for how to prevent the accident like this in the future, including service regulators be relocated outside by occupied structure, but moving the regulators to the outside, it would provide better air circulation, prevent another situation where gas is building up pressure inside of the apartment building. HB 345 does this exactly. Despite the tragedy that our community has faced, actions still have not been taken to protect tenants in a meaningful way. In 2019, another gas leak was detected by the tenants in a building not far from 2016 explosion. After advocacy from the tenants, the utility company checked the regulator in the complex and found minor leaks in multiple buildings, strong enough that people could smell it. One of the residents who made the report at first was told that there was no gas leak. When he found out that he was giving incorrect information, he said, "I went to sleep last night thinking everything was okay." He was in shock that the same situation could have happened again. It wasn't until this second incident that most of the regulars were finally moved to the outside. Our residents live with the trauma of the night of August 10, 2016, every single day. They remember running out of their buildings, the horrifying smell, the feeling of fear and confusion, the image of their neighbors jumping out of buildings. We have the responsibility to learn from what has happened and ensure that we prevent dangerous situations like these from ever happening again within our state. CASA strongly supports HB 345 and urges a favorable report.
Any questions? I'm sorry, ma'am. What is your name again for the record? You're not Catherine.
No, I'm Ana Martinez. I'm a lead organizer with CASA.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Thank you very much. Our final witness on this bill, Mr. Fred Hoover. Mr. Hoover does not appear to be here. So that concludes our witness list for House Bill 345. There are no unfavorables. So with that, that concludes our bill hearings for today. Thank you all very much.